Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Hey, thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast. Welcome to our live Texans Jags post-game show. Robert here with Sports Radio 610, Shaun Bijani. And Shaun, forget everything else about this game. There's only one thing that matters if you have an NFL football team. You got a quarterback. The Texans got a quarterback, and this could mean an entire change in the franchise's trajectory.
No question. I think that was a declaration that a lot of people made after last week's game and seeing what he did against the Colts. But when you're able to do that and execute, make the types of throws, decisions that he made today, and you win a football game, you can definitively say, yes, right now, going forward, the Houston Texans have themselves a quarterback. And, oh, by the way, they may have themselves a pretty darn good football team at the end of the day when you take down the division favorite by a lot at their place in the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was a good day.
What a game on all three sides of the football. Get in the comments. We want to hear from you. CJ Stroud, just to put an emphasis on it, 20 for 30, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, 118 passer rating, 4 touchdown passes in his first 3 games, 0 interceptions. He is a rookie that is on everybody's radar now. There is no question about it. The NFL, you got to pay attention because CJ Stroud is for real. Let's unpack it possession by possession. Shaun, let's start off with Texans go 3 and out to start. Already a little bit tired of the third down screen that goes nowhere. I've seen too many of this in Texans history, but the Texans get lucky on defense. Calvin Ridley drops a great pass by Trevor Lawrence, which should have been a touchdown, and then they miss a 48-yard field goal. And that's really the story of the game, Shaun. They shot themselves in the foot repeatedly.
Yeah, no question. But while they were shooting themselves in the foot, the Texans were slowly building momentum and capitalizing on it. My biggest takeaway from this game, because I know we got contributions from specific guys that I know we'll talk about, but there's really 2 words. And Bill O'Brien used to say them all the time, but they never did it under his watch. Complimentary football. That's exactly what you saw today.
Absolutely. Next Texans possession, 7 plays, 62-yard drive. Pierce bangs it in from the 1, and Shaun, CJ to Tank Dell, 46-yard bomb to the 2. We've been waiting for the deep game to open up. There you go.
Yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful play, man. Tank Dell, even better throw than it was maybe the catch. You have to give Dell all the props in the world, man. Through 3 guys the ability to maintain concentration on that play. I mean, the only thing that would have been better if he would have just somehow found a way to get into the end zone. He wound up a couple of yards short, but you give DP his first touchdown of the year, which was a big thing. So I was glad to see that.
Yeah, and maybe he gets in the end zone later in the game. Let's find out. Give Josh Jones credit on the block to put Pierce in the end zone. Can't give Josh Jones credit for a lot of stuff last couple of weeks, but definitely made a nice block there. Next Jags possession. Jags shoot themselves in the foot on 3rd and short. ETN falls down on the handoff, so the Texans get the ball back, but on 3rd and 5 near midfield, Josh Jones gets knocked 5 yards back by his defender, who hits Stroud as he throws. Wouldn't really matter, though, because the Texans with an illegal shift, they got to get rid of those. Jags next possession, they drive into field goal range, but Will Anderson, he's doing his J.J. Watt thing. He blocks the 51-yard field goal.
Yeah, he came up with a huge, huge play there. Man, he almost caught that darn thing, too. And then he had a chance to scoop and score himself, just couldn't come up with it. But that was such a huge possession because, prior to that, you mentioned it, the Texans kind of doing what the Jags did to themselves all day and shoot themselves in the foot with a bunch of false starts and, the illegal motion, forced to punt the ball there. Texans make another defensive stand despite some fundamental mistakes. Henry To'oTo'o just an exclamation point at that point in time for me. Just a missed tackle. He should have destroyed the Jacksonville Jaguars ball carrier on a bubble screen pass to him. Then the first quarter ends and the Texans kind of clamp down a little bit, force a 51-yard attempt, and Anderson just executes.
Yeah, we're going to keep it mostly positive, but Toa Toa, I rewatched the game last week, Sean, on Friday. Man, he was terrible. And he was terrible again in the first half of this game. You got to think there's got to be some linebacker out there on a waiver wire, on a practice somewhere, somehow. There's got to be a better linebacker than Toa Toa. He is not an NFL linebacker. Sorry.
Yeah, no, not right now. Hey, we got a message says, ring that victory bell. I don't have one, but I'll do this one. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, man. You want to keep it positive, you get that dub. So that makes you feel good.
Texans take advantage of the block field goal, go 7 plays, 41 yards, 4-yard touchdown pass, Stroud to Brevin Jordan. Sean, just great decisions and laser accurate throws by Stroud on that entire drive, the whole day, really.
The whole day, there's no question about it. And that's what makes you say what we did to start the show. You've got a quarterback. He made some next level throws today. One particular, we already talked about just threading the needle through 3 defenders, finding Dell 46 yards down the field that set up the DP touchdown. But another one that wasn't made that really sticks out is a great throw. And I think it was on a 3rd down. He just threads the needle to Nico Collins on a little dig route, or maybe it was a crosser or a seam. I can't remember. But he just comes free behind the defender, and it hits him right in the gut. Nico can't come up with it. It was those throws that solidified it for me. And again, it feels better that you got the win. It feels better when you're able to do what they did today in the red zone and get some points on the board and things like that. But he's legit. It's going to be really, really fun to watch him throughout the rest of the season.
I'll say it again. Get us some questions. Get us some comments. We want to hear from you as we progress with the post-game show. The Jags shoot themselves in the foot on 4th and 3, a completion wiped away on illegal use of the hands. So the Texans on offense start with the Kendrick Green false start. Was called on Josh Jones, but that was definitely Green, so he does not get the blame right there. Stroud tried to squeeze one into too tight a window on 3rd down. But Sean, how about the defense coming up with a big play late in the half? Eric Murray jars the ball loose on a pass to Agnew. It cannot be overstated just getting Eric Murray back, because they missed him a lot last week after that concussion. And our guy, Blake Cashman, with the recovery.
Yeah. Before you even got to that, Steven Nelson had really good coverage on Ridley to force a 3rd and 10. And then you saw that Murray and Henry Toa Toa sandwich where Murray forced that fumble of Agnew. And Texans, got pretty good field position, I think, out of that. Started around their own 35-yard line. But that's kind of where you started to see, for me, like the culture of what D'Amico had been talking about since day one of him taking over is, fast, physical, fundamentally sound football. And it kind of all started to come together. And oddly enough, it took an encroachment call on Heinisch to start that drive for the Texans to get to that point. But you kind of started to see things come together there. Lawrence was under pressure. He had to scramble a little bit. Cashman, guys that you wouldn't anticipate making plays, made plays today as well.
Yeah, game balls, according to Joe, go to D'Amico, CJ, Tank, Will, and a guy that we're going to get to in a little bit named Beck. He's not a loser, baby. So let's go to Stroud with a beautiful 1-minute drill. 9 plays, 56 yards, a last-second field goal, big completions. Man, he spreads the ball around, Sean. Woods, Tank, Schultz, and Nico.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I don't remember, Collins wasn't involved really in the offense in terms of being a target by Stroud, but, he comes up with a great play there, and he got 15 yards after the catch to set that 28-yard field goal up. Obviously, again, you'd like to get, 4 more points on the board, but those kind of just angry, hateful, intentional runs after you make that catch what we've seen from Collins through the first 3 games is not something you saw at all from him in his first 2 seasons with the Texans. And there's a reason for that. Bobby Slowick recognized something in Nico, and Nico recognized something within himself that he didn't maybe think that he was capable of, or even thought about being used in this way, as not just a boundary receiver, not just somebody that could take the top off of the defense down the sideline. You got to have a freaking quarterback to get the dude the ball in the first place. Now that you do, but Slowick also recognizing, man, we can utilize this guy's 6'4" big frame. He's strong, he's hungry, he's tough, physical. He can make some plays happen in the open field as well. You saw it there.
Yeah, and a key part of Nico getting run after catch, real simple. You got a quarterback that knows how to lead a receiver, and that's one of CJ's big benefits. We didn't see it with Davis Mills, obviously.
No question. No question. By the way, yeah, I took note of this, and I'm sure the numbers lend itself out for the totality of the game to look pretty damn good as well. But at the end of the first half, Texans had converted 5 of their 8 third down opportunities, were 2 for 2 in the red zone. Meanwhile, defensively, they held the Jags to just 1 for 6 on third downs. A complete flip from what we saw from this Texans offense and defense, particularly last week against the Colts. That's, again, where I say Bobby Slowick starting to get a grasp of his personnel offensively, but finally, it being reciprocated a little bit by this offensive line, which, they tried to kill a little momentum themselves with these silly false starts and, illegal motion penalties and things like that. But it's starting to come together, I think, for Slowick, and certainly defensively, those guys did not let D'Amico down in the first half. They executed very, very, very well in totality.
What number am I holding up right now, Shaun? What does that say?
0, man. 0. Are you an Oregon fan now? What are you doing?
I'm holding up 0 because that's how many sacks that CJ Stroud had today. Thank you, offensive line, for a remarkable 180 turnaround.
Incredible. I can't. There's so many things. Like, what do you take away from this game, Bijani? I don't know. There's too many. Like, I legitimately need maybe more than 2 hands to tell you all of the positive things like that were pertinent and key. That led to the success that the Texans had today in all 3 phases of the game. And it didn't look like it was going to, be that way in the early goings of this football game today, but fighting through adversity, doing it on the road, doing it against a divisional opponent, and probably playing the best football, the most complete game that this organization and its fans have seen in maybe 3.5, 4 years' time.
Third quarter, Jags on a 7-play, 67-yard drive. Shaun, what did you think of the pass interference on Jimmy Ward in the end zone? I saw some people on Twitter, X or whatever, that they were not too happy about that.
No, and I agree with all those people. I said it myself on Twitter, what little I was actually on it today during the game. I mean, that was just an incredibly BS call. Soft. To me, it was well-executed coverage by Jimmy Ward. And look, he stood his ground after he made that play. He was doing a little finger wag and stuff like that. Probably, hey, don't throw on me. But also, hey, that's a BS call. Don't call that on me. Both would have been true. It happens. It went both ways today, to be honest with you. I thought the referees missed some and made some unwarranted calls for both of these teams.
Texans 3 and out after Nico drops a perfect pass into a super tight window. You talked about that a little bit earlier, Shaun. The Jags drive down for a field goal, cutting it to 7 points. But then I remember you telling me, Shaun, you said right before kickoff, you said that Andrew Beck, he needs to be our main return. Get the ball to Andrew Beck on a kick return.
Hey, freaking Mike Boone, he got so lucky there that Beck was able to come up with that ball after he'd fumbled it. Boone would have caught them hands after this game if Beck didn't get that ball. You got to he's back there for a reason. You got to trust your teammates. I know Boone wanted it. He thought he was going to be in position to come up on that ball. Beck wanted it. Good thing it worked out for him, as he just, he didn't really switch gears. Like, for him to go as lateral as much as he did to even start that run, like for him to just kind of like glide, I think is the word that Chris Myers used on that kick return for the touchdown and went 85 yards. It was incredible. I mean, just same speed all the way down that right sideline. It was a beautiful thing to see, man.
Didn't expect a fullback to make those two moves right at the beginning. I mean, he broke I think it was the kicker's tackle, and then he had one more tackle at the end. They couldn't get him by the shoot tops, but
he blew. He broke. Well, he made 3 guys miss right off the bat, too.
Right? Yeah. That's what I wanted. That's what I was saying, which was incredible. That was the incredible part. That right at the beginning, what he did was just those first couple, and then they had a sort of a Three Stooges thing happen with half of their return team running into each other, which helped you out. But Beck haven't been happy at times with the way we used him to run the ball, for instance. Down by the goal line last week, and the way Slowick used it, we finally found a way to use Andrew Beck, use him in a kicking game, because the other kick returners, aren't doing a hell of a lot. And by the way, this is the first Texan kickoff return for TD since Tremont Smith against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where in Jacksonville, same thing.
That's pretty good. And Tremont was pretty good at doing what he was doing when he was a member of the Texans in the return game too. Again, look, you got those guys back there for a reason. And if there's any coach aside from D'Amico Ryans as the guy defensively, if somebody's on the field, special teams wise, I trust in Frank Ross that they absolutely belong there. And Beck, he looks the part. In terms of the fullback type. And I guess if you would have asked me, gun to my head, who's most likely to do that among the least likely guys you think would, between Andrew Beck and Dalton Keene, I probably would have said Dalton Keene, because the guy he looks like a baller. But I was happy for Beck, man. He can sling that, those golden locks around all he wants to now. And Texans aren't going to bat an eye. They're just going to wait for it to happen again next time.
Yeah, it's funny because you would think a blocked field goal might be your biggest special teams play of the game, but instead it's a fullback returning a kick. Biggest defensive play of the game, no question in my mind. Jags' next possession, Blake Cashman. When they're trying to make that comeback and they're trying to get back in the game with the Texans, Shaun, with that interception, he's diving, incredible interception.
Yeah, and look, he had 2 in the preseason, or at least it was 2 in training camp. I don't know if he made one in an actual preseason game. He might have. But Blake Cashman looked really good at linebacker. And then, had to start the year kind of battling a hamstring injury. I think it might have even kept him out of the last preseason game against the Saints, if I'm remembering correctly. But guy's healthy now and making plays. And to be honest with you, he's been as every good of a linebacker that should be out there. If you're going to talk about guys like Henry To'oTo'o as a rookie, Christian Harris, what he's doing. Even I thought he had a better game today once he kind of settled in. Looks much better against the run than he does in coverage. Just still too hesitant there. But that Cashman interception, you got to talk about this. What led up to it? The Texans got a pass rush and made Lawrence get rid of the football every time before that. They dialed it up on first and second downs after that Jacksonville timeout, or it was a Houston timeout, one or the other. When Jacksonville had the first down on their first 2 plays, they dialed up more pressure on that one, and Lawrence had to get rid of it. Cashman made a great play on it, and what was the best part about that, it was literally right on the heels of Andrew Beck doing what he did in the return game. It was beautiful.
Yeah, Blake Cashman, 2 pass defenses, 6 tackles, 3 solo, the interception, of course, a huge game for him, like I said, but also Will Anderson. I'm just going to get your thoughts, because there was just one QB hit. We already talked about the block kick. Now that was a big deal, but I still want to see a little bit more from Will Anderson, imposing his will a little bit more on the passing game. It didn't feel like he was making Trevor do much to get rid of the football most of this game. He had 4 tackles, 3 solo.
Go back and look at it. I'm going to do the same thing because of something Matt Burke mentioned earlier this week, on Thursday, in fact. And he was asked about Will Anderson, kind of being neutralized against the Colts last week and what he wants to see from the rookie. And he'd said, hey, man, I call it like the and one stuff. Like, we can remember the plays where he's doing the spin move and, ripping through somebody and, making a sack and a great play in the backfield. But he wanted to see Will Anderson today And I noticed it a little bit. And I'm going to go back and watch this with full intent of just watching him and how he attacked that offensive line and his duties as an edge rusher. He wanted to see more of a fundamental approach. Instead of making the and one spin moves, trying to get around somebody and do all this flashy stuff and hit the edge, he wanted to see him take on a full body and push them into the backfield and dominate and just grind it out, have those grinded out type of plays that open things up for his teammates. And I even asked Will Anderson about that philosophy this week. And Anderson, what reminded me of it is I remember Anderson talking about it. I think it was his junior year at Alabama. And he said, like, you know what? He was asked about this. Dude, you know, your numbers are way down in terms of pressures and quarterback sacks and stuff like that. Does that frustrate you at all? And he said, no, absolutely not. It doesn't frustrate me. It just opens up my teammates and their abilities to make plays as well. I'm happy doing what I'm doing so long as we're executing as a defense. And I remember that this week. That's why I asked him about it. And he said, yes, it's very similar. I want to work on the fundamental stuff and open things up for my teammates. And what'd you see today? How many times you see Malik Collins in the backfield get a quarterback hit? How many times you see, Kurt Hines get a little bit of a push and flush Lawrence out the pocket or make him step up? It's those kinds of things that I think Matt Burke, D'Amico Ryans really are preaching at this point to Will Anderson, who, look, it's innate, probably feels a little bit of pressure when he doesn't have a good game or a good series, feels like he needs to do something extra. I think you're going to go back and look at that film today and see that he probably grades out very well because he executed the fundamentals defensively.
Yeah, Stroud, next drive, leads a 10-play, 41-yarder. Dalton Schultz drops a touchdown pass. I need you to catch some passes, Dalton Schultz, for the money that you're making. Second drop in 2 games. But they still put 3 on the board. Adam says, Sean, check this out. Tank Dell, after 3 weeks, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Robert Woods each have 15 receptions. You have 3 guys spreading the wealth there with CJ Stroud, utilizing that entire receiving core. And we talked about it, but man, I looked in the first half. He had 9 completions, I should say, to 7 different receivers.
Yeah, there's no question. And it kind of reminds me going back and when I was observing training camp, you know, they seem to kind of have like days, right? There was a Nico day, there was a Tank day. And for a while there, it seemed like he was doing something special along with Nico every day. But they made a concerted effort to just kind of see what each one of these guys had. I remember there being like a Noah Brown day, a Brevin Jordan day. And those practices in camp mean something. You know, you get an opportunity to see what everybody can do, because at some point in time during the season, you're going to find matchups in which you can exploit. And with these route concepts in this offense from the Shanahan tree that, you know, now Slowick's putting his thumbprints on, I think you're seeing that kind of come together. And look, when you have the success and you can almost say at the end of the day, you know what, it doesn't matter where the ball's going because that dude's going to make a play, whether it be Robert Woods, Mr. Money on third downs. You know, we'd seen Tank Dell's ability to be able to do that and create space. Nico be able to create space, having these dump off options for Stroud, whether it be Dameon Pierce out of the backfield or a tight end. These options are there, but it's credit to this offense and the route concepts from Bobby Slowick. You have to give him the tip of the cap there as well.
Jags respond with what I thought was a little bit too easy of a drive. 6 plays, 75 yards in less than 2 minutes. Needed to tighten it up a little bit there. But Sean, CJ, next time he gets the football, reads the blitz perfectly and finds who else? Throw up your H's. Tank Dell, 68-yard touchdown.
You know what set that up for me was Dameon Pierce. I don't know what the final rushing numbers are today. I have to imagine they're much, much better than they were last week against the Colts. But, you know, up to that point, up to that drive, you know, Pierce had a couple of really good runs. And I think that is set up because of the Texans' ability today. It's easier to do it when you have a lead, but it's also easier to do it when you've got guys busting their ass during the week trying to figure things out, how to improve a run game. Texans ran it back with the offensive line they had last week. You don't feel good about it going in. Dameon Pierce and Danny Barrett, his running back coach, it was pretty interesting what I'd learned a couple of days ago in talking to Dameon, in that he'd gone back and studied film that, you know what, I'm setting up about 7.5 yards from the line of scrimmage. Maybe I need to take a step back. And that's going to help me become more patient instead of slowing down, literally slowing down. Let me take a half-yard step back and let those blocks set. I think you saw a different Dameon Pierce today because of that. And these big play opportunities don't happen unless there is a small threat of the run, unless you're thinking twice about that. Dameon Pierce had a hell of a strong run on 1st and 10 on that drive you're talking about. Then he pressed the hole on a 2nd and 8, cut it back to set up that 3rd and 3. Stroud to Dell, 68-yard touchdown. That happens. What are you going to do at 3rd and 3? You're going to run the ball? You're going to pass the ball? It's that millisecond of doubt from those linebackers and defensive linemen and even the guys in the secondary. You're thinking, man, do I need to come up? There was a miscommunication, in the secondary, and a beautiful route concept on that bunch set that Slowick loves to run, and I hate it when it's not blocked right, but it was. And again, just on the money throw from Stroud and an even better catch and run from Tank Dell on that to really step on the throat and solidify that game for the Texans.
Dameon Pierce, really, it wasn't all that spectacular. But then at the end of the game, when the Texans are trying to run out the clock and they're going to give the ball to Dameon Pierce, all of a sudden, Shaun, it looks like Dameon Pierce is like 2022 Dameon Pierce. He's running over people. Offensive line also helping him out some too, but that looked like vintage Dameon Pierce, the one that we've been waiting to see, and maybe just he needs Jacksonville to bring it out of him.
Yeah, to be honest with you, man, I saw it all day from Dameon, and I was keyed in on that. I was looking at where he was lining up all day. He just had that extra little bit of juice to him today, where he wasn't freaking going down. If it was lowering the shoulder, if it was sticking a hand in the ground, if it was, like I mentioned, pressing the hole before he cuts back, there ain't a back on this team better at a freaking cutback than Dameon Pierce. I mean, that jump cut that he makes is it's fast. And as soon as he gets a toe in the damn ground, he's up the field. I noticed a different Dameon Pierce today, and I'm interested to talk to him about it. I know people will catch up with him today after the game. They probably already have. I'd love to hear his response if somebody asked him the question, like, what attributed to your different running style and production today. I guarantee he's going to probably go back and say, hey, it was where I was lining up. Even though last week he did mention, you know what, we were seeing the same results anyway. It's just, you might be seeing the same results, but you give a dude like that an extra half yard of momentum and ability to think and process of what he's seeing from a defense, that can make all the difference in the world. And today, I think it's a major step in the right direction for not just Dameon, but this offensive line. Slowick said it himself. Continuity has suffered because of the injuries. And, he's trying to figure out what he can and can't do with these linemen that he's putting in these situations. This is a hell of a building block game when you can point and see a big fat 0 next to sacks and CJ Stroud's name. And I guarantee you, Damien's going to go back and look at this game, and they wasn't perfect. They missed some holes. They missed some cutbacks. They missed some blocks. You do it every game because the defense executes better than you did sometimes. But this is going to be a stepping stone game, I think, for the run game and in terms of the protections and what Slowick feels like he can and can't call going forward.
So you tell everybody just ignore the stats for this game for Dameon Pierce, because it was only 14 carries, 31 yards.
I don't know what they are. What is it? 14 carries for what?
31 yards, 2.2 yards a carry. His longest was 10 yards.
Man, I tell you, I don't give a damn because 14 and 31, 2.2, it felt different to me. Look, some of those shorter runs, I think he had a first down run for just the second time all season, on a first down today. 2 straight games of 10-yard runs. It's not Dameon what you saw last year, okay? But to hell with last year, for better or worse. For better and worse, I should say. It's a new year. I'm just telling you, you go back and look at Dameon. If you need to look at it again, you don't believe me. He looked a hell of a lot closer to the dude that you saw last year. Didn't yield itself out in terms of yards. And I know that's what people, all they care about. And it's in some regard, you're right. You need to get the results. But This is a good stepping stone game for Dameon Pierce, I think. And the proof should be in the pudding just in terms of the types of protection they gave CJ Stroud. And I think a pretty damn well balanced called game for Bobby Slowick. You threw it 30 times, you ran it 26 times, and you didn't take any sacks, no scrambles, maybe the one from Stroud, and it went for 11 yards on a 3rd and 19, I think it was. I think overall a really, really good result in that facet of the game.
Get in the questions before we take off. We're going to be leaving here in just a few minutes. But, Shaun, one thing I wanted to bring up, this game was a big take the heat off of me game for one Nick Caserio. After the Stingley injury in the middle of the week, you look at that draft pick, it looks like he totally screwed it up, knowing that the guy had a hard time staying on the field. And in 2 years with the Texans, he's having a hard time staying on the field. They're going to miss him for at least 4 weeks with the hamstring, maybe longer. And then, you don't have Kenyon Green, your other first-round pick from that year. There's no Jalen Petrie in this game, although you would think Jalen Petrie is going to be back soon, and that obviously looks like a much better pick. John Mechie did have a catch in this one, so that was good to see. But really, that draft class last year looks terrible. The draft class this year is saving his butt. And if Juice Scruggs was out there, man, he'd be sitting pretty, because between Will Anderson, Stroud, Tank Dell, and Juice Scruggs, you really got something.
Yeah, and you can't crush them for guys getting injured. It's still one game. It's one win. It's a big win, divisional on the road. It makes you feel a hell of a lot better about a lot of things. We just went over a number of them, but certainly quarterback is probably number one. This was a big week because of all the injuries and everything that you mentioned. I just kind of take it in a different direction because, look, Caserio is going to be under the gun, and rightfully so, for the foreseeable future until his dudes are on the field healthy and they can show that they can produce and sustain it. But this was a big week for the Texans coaches. Injuries, not a damn thing you can do about it. Now, you've had nearly a 50% turnover in roster from last year to this year. You kept certain guys for a reason, and you went out and got certain guys for a reason. Some of them are healthy, some of them ain't healthy. Doesn't make a difference. You have got to coach them up. Whether it be D'Amico, Slowick, the offensive line coach, Strouser, across the board, you got to coach these guys up. And I think it's pretty darn evident today that as much as we said, and it was right last week, that Shane Steichen outcoached D'Amico Ryans and really that entire staff, they flipped the damn tables on Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars today. Texans outcoached them. They played them in almost every facet of the game. And I thought it was just the most complete game by far, maybe beyond 4 years. If you look at the totality and really maybe the little nuances, I know we're kind of up against it, but I want to go back to one particular play that happened, and I'm going to see if I can find it in my notes. But it was on the heels of a Texans offsides call. And I think it could have been the encroachment from Heinisch, but I don't want to misspeak. But nevertheless, just hear me out here. Texans were offsides, and it gave the Jacksonville Jaguars like a 2nd and 1 or something like that. D'Amico Ryans, and I'm going to give him credit for this because I think it had to come down this way. Jacksonville tried to go hurry up, get back to the line, and get those yards quickly. D'Amico had the D-line change a call. And right before Trevor snaps the ball, they shift right. And that drew the offensive line on a false start. They jumped across the line. I think you have to credit D'Amico for that. That is a heads-up play saying, damn, we just put ourselves behind the 8 ball again. And it was a game, I think it was when the Texans were only ahead 10 and Jacksonville had gotten the ball back. And to me, that's D'Amico saying, man, we got to get those 5 yards back. We're going to do it this way. They can do it to us. We're going to do it to them. And that's just the game within the game kind of a stuff. And so I think you got to give D'Amico credit. I've talked a little bit about him, struggling with the pulse on some of these games and not playing the chess game instead of playing just checkers. Today, I thought he won that, battle within the war type of thing, if you want to go that route. And so I think it's a huge stepping stone for the Texans, not just CJ Stroud, not just offensive line, but really for the coaches as well.
Yeah, huge thanks also for getting the comments. Aurelio and Jalen, we posted some of those up there as Sean's been talking. Joe as well. Sean, you can't say it enough. Tank Dell has already turned into a game changer. I mean, everything that we saw in camp, everything that we were hoping that he would be, 5 catches, 145 yards, a touchdown, nearly another touchdown. Remember last week, he had a touchdown. He also had a touchdown taken away because of a penalty. He would have 3 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks if you had all of it put together. Just that's a game-changing type guy. And those are the guys that help you win, win games, win playoffs, all of that.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody tweeted out a little chart earlier today showing the pay or salary disparities amongst position groups, Texans versus Jags. And 2 of the biggest disparities was at wide receiver and linebacker. And mind you, this is before the game, and I'm thinking, pretty sarcastically and cynical of myself, like, you know what, the Texans are going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10 with both of those position groups because, well, nobody anticipated or expected anything, and maybe rightfully so, from the wide receiver group this year. And certainly the linebacker core, yeah, they played better today. Maybe they're getting more comfortable. Maybe it was just something in the scheme. Maybe it was a matchup. Kind of a thing that led to them having the advantage a little bit more. Maybe it was just executing fundamentals. I don't know. Both of those, they're going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10, regardless of who they face this season. But if there's an underrated element to anything on this team, when you talk about a position group versus another on the opponent, it might be wide receiver, dude. Nico Collins, through the first 2 games, is emerged. He's there. He's not emerging. He's there. He's the number 1. And a playmaker, a game breaker, you're seeing it now for 2 straight weeks. Today is kind of like the exclamation point. That dude could be Tank Dell, Mr. Reliable. They're veteran wide receivers. He's able to stay healthy. You got Robert Woods. I'm anxious to see now if the Texans in 3 weeks, when they get healthier on the offensive line, if they can begin to utilize the tight ends. That just adds another element to Bobby Slowick's offense and a playmaking threat. If you can get Dalton Schultz involved in this offense, that's going to be a huge, huge game changer offensively for the Texans.
And boy, what a difference in third down efficiency. Jacksonville was 5 of 13 for this one. The Texans were 9 of 15, and we've seen a lot of poor third down efficiency from the Texans over the last few years.
Yeah, third down efficiency, no question. And look, that's the sign of a good offense is when you're able to, pick up key third downs. 9 of 15 today. You held the Jags defensively 1-6 in the second half. That's complimentary. You've got, if your offense is rolling, you want to get those dudes back onto the field as soon as you possibly can. I thought it was kind of like in a negative light a little bit, Andrew Beck returning at 85 yards on special teams, that kickoff return for a touchdown. I was like, damn, the defense got to go right back out there and do it again. It was just a pretty lengthy drive prior to that for the Jags. At least it felt like that. But offensively, dude, that's how you know you got a quarterback. That's how you know you got a competent offensive coordinator. That's how you know you have some playmakers, is when you're able to execute consistently on third downs, and you'll take 9 of 15 every day and twice on a glorious Sunday that ends in a dub.
Any final thoughts from you? Because my final thought is very simple, and I said it off the top, and I'll say it again in case anybody tuned in late. If you have a quarterback in the NFL, this is not a secret. This isn't a revelatory thing. I'm not telling you anything you guys don't know. But dude, we got a quarterback. And Lovie Smith, thank you. Thank you for winning that last game, because we might have picked the wrong quarterback if we had picked first overall. We don't know what was going to happen, but we got the right guy. I think between those 2 guys, between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, Sean, we got the right guy.
Once upon a time ago, you had yourself a quarterback, but you didn't have an offensive coordinator that was worth a damn thing. Bill O'Brien, Tim Kelly, Pep Hamilton. You've been through an absolute crap fest, for the better part of a decade. I'll go you one better. Not only do you have a quarterback, but you have an offensive coordinator that understands how to use the quarterback. You have an offensive coordinator that understands how to use the talent on this team so far. And hey, look, it's one game, just like last week was. It was only one game, and you're only 3 games through the season. Hey, man, we can only judge what we see, what's right in front of us. And so far, right now, complementary football. Those are the 2 words that I would say, and it means much, much more than what it just used to for Bill O'Brien. It actually means something. It actually worked today. And so I'm looking forward to the next few weeks to see what this Texans team can do as they get healthier, hopefully, and they face some teams that are now in front of them that are dealing with their own types of situations, whether it be the Steelers, whether it be, the Atlanta Falcons. It's trending upward. The stock chart for the Texans is looking pretty solid right now.
Well, you could say it's one game for the defense, and you could say it's one game for special teams. But CJ Stroud has been doing what he's been doing all through this process and through 3 games and all of that. And look, he just went into Jacksonville, the favorite to win the AFC South, and he took them apart. He took them apart with a backup offensive line, with a bunch of scrubs out there, guys playing out of position, guys not having experience at the positions that they're even playing. Look at what Josh Jones was doing. This is like his 2nd game in his life he's played left tackle in the NFL. Kendrick Green, 2nd game in his life he's played guard. And CJ Stroud was working behind that garbage, and he looked great. There was a reason why there was no CJ Stroud sitting on the ground, and a lot of it was because of CJ Stroud. And, I cannot express it and point to it and emphasize it and put it in quotation marks. We got a quarterback. Me and Sean, we're going to talk more about this midweek. Wednesday, we'll get you guys up to date on what's going on with the Texans. We'll talk about the Astros pennant race, all of that. We got a special Rockets guest on Monday night on the show, so you're going to want to tune into that. Can't wait for the next Texans game. The Steelers, they are no joke defensively. So this is going to be a test, John, coming up. CJ Stroud against this Steelers defense. Let's cross our fingers that maybe Laramie Tunsil's back by next week. But that's going to be a real test for this kid, and he can really show some people something if he does something against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
It's going to be fun. I know this. You have something to look forward to every single week now. And the number 1 guy is CJ Stroud. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great watch.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate it. Keep up with us every single week. We got shows coming out. We got our live post-game shows. Love having everybody aboard. Thanks so much. Thanks again, Sean, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody.
Sir.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, you can support the show by subscribing on YouTube and commenting on the videos. Listen to Houston Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and Google. Don't forget to tell a friend and share our show on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.